don't skip, stay till the end, because if your eyes are on these words right now, it is not an accident, my dear one. This is a call from the unseen, and the universe is pushing this message in front of you, because a secret that has been buried for centuries is finally ready to come to light, and you are meant to hear it. There is a hidden truth about spiritual protection that archangels, Jesus, and Sophia guarded in silence while empires rose and fell. A truth about 3 simple objects made by human hands that carry a frequency Archons cannot penetrate. And tonight, you are being invited to remember what was taken from you. Ask yourself this as you read, and be honest with your own soul. Have you ever felt watched when no one was in the room, like a pressure in the air, like something dark just out of sight? Have you ever felt your mind filling with thoughts that did not feel like yours? Sudden fear, sudden shame, sudden despair that made no sense compared to what was happening around you. Have you ever felt like there was a veil over your perception, as if you were walking through life, half awake, sensing something behind the curtain, but never quite seeing it? If so, don't scroll, don't dismiss this, because what you are about to learn explains why and shows you how to step out of that invisible cage. Long before institutional religion took over the story, there were communities who followed the living Jesus, who listened when Sophia whispered into dreams, who felt the wings of Michael at their back, and they were told something the official church later tried to erase from every gospel, every manuscript, every stone. A simple instruction that sounded almost too ordinary to be dangerous, yet terrified the powers of this world and the powers that feed on fear. There are 3 objects made by human hands that can anchor the light of the monad in material form, and when Archons see them, they turn away in fear because they recognize a frequency that does not belong to their world at all. These early Gnostics called them things made by hands that carry heaven's light, and they did not treat them as decoration. They did not hang them as empty symbols. They used them as spiritual technology, real protection tools working at the level of vibration, and they passed them teacher to student in whispers and symbols, hidden in plain sight, because they knew the moment these objects became common knowledge, the entire system of spiritual control would begin to crack. Every time a chosen one carried all 3, something undeniable happened. The sense of being watched stopped. The random mental attacks vanished. Nightmares faded. The heavy pressure in the air lifted. The constant energy drain ended, not slowly, not in months, but the moment the frequency of these objects locked into the field of the person who carried them, everything shifted. Because these are not charms, they are anchors, physical items that hold monadic frequency and broadcast it continuously so that anything living off fear and confusion simply cannot lock onto you. The official church could never allow that, because if everyday people knew they could use simple items to shield themselves from spiritual harassment, they would not depend on priests, exorcisms, or fear-based rituals. They would not be easily controlled by threats of demons and hell. They would become spiritually sovereign, and an entire empire of control would lose its power overnight. So the references to these objects were cut, burned, and twisted into metaphor, while the real technology was buried in fragments, coded in symbols and phrases, waiting for a time when people like you would be ready to hear it again. That time is now. If your heart is beating a little faster, if your skin tingles, stay, don't skip, stay till the end, because this may be one of the most important messages you ever let all the way into your spirit. The first object Jesus pointed to, the one Sophia blessed with her own breath, is a stone you have probably seen in books and museums without realizing what it really is. Lapis lazuli, not just any blue rock, but the deep, star-flecked stone the Egyptians called the stone of heaven, and the Sumerians before them called the stone of the gods. And it shows up again and again in ancient art for a reason. They were trying to tell you that this stone is coded with something. In the secret traditions, it is said that when Sophia breathed the divine spark into humanity, that spark descended as a stone of sapphire fire into the crown of the human light body. And the institutional church taught this as a metaphor for soul. But the mystics knew Sophia did something much more literal. She imprinted the frequency of that spark into specific minerals in the earth, so that when a chosen one touched or carried them, their inner light would recognize the outer signal and lock onto it. Lapis lazuli carries a frequency that resonates directly with your pineal gland and crown center. The two gates Archons attack most aggressively because if they keep your third eye calcified and your crown sealed, you stay trapped in a five-sense prison, blind to the realms they operate in, and you mistake their whispers for your own thoughts. They flood these centers with interference through chemicals, trauma, and constant distraction. Fluoride builds up in the pineal physically, while their thought forms and emotional hooks attack it energetically, until many people live entire lives with their higher perception offline. But here is what happens when lapis lazuli enters your field. This stone emits a stable electromagnetic frequency, and this is not fairy dust. Modern science confirms crystals radiate measurable EM fields, and the particular range lapis transmits matches the natural, healthy resonance of a clear pineal gland. When you wear lapis against your skin as a pendant, keep it in your pocket, or hold it in meditation, your pineal feels a signal that says, "This is home. This is how I am meant to vibrate," and your body begins to adjust itself toward that state. Within days, many sensitive people report changes, not in physical eyesight, but in perception. You start seeing patterns that were always there but never registered. Synchronicities stack up. Numbers like 111 and 333 follow you. Dreams become vivid stories instead of broken fragments. And the most shocking part, you begin to sense presences in a room before you see or hear anything in the physical. You just know something else is there. That is not fantasy. That is your third eye remembering how it functioned before interference. Archons hate this stone because a person who can see them cannot be gaslit by them. You perceive when a thought is being pushed into your mind from outside. You see cords and hooks in your field. You notice when someone around you is being used as a portal, and once you see the game, you can step out of it. The early Gnostics wore lapis constantly. They slept with it, prayed with it, taught with it, because they knew it does not just protect you while you are wearing it. It retrains your perception so that even when the stone is away from your body, your gates stay more open than before. If you feel blind, if you sense things but can't quite see them, if your intuition feels blocked and your dreams feel dead, lapis lazuli is your first ally, not as jewelry, as frequency tech. If that resonates with you, don't put it off. Mark your intention right now. Type, "I am ready to see," or "Lapis, open my sight" in the comments, and let your body and spirit know you are willing to step out of that fog. The second object is quieter on the outside, but just as explosive in the unseen, and institutional religion feared it so much that even whispering about it could get you branded a heretic. It is a name written on paper in your own hand, not typed, not printed, not bought. A declaration that turns a blank page into a broadcasting tower, and that name is I am Monad. In the Gospel of Philip, there is a teaching about names that refuse to die, even under censorship. It says that some names deceive, but there is a hidden name that only those who truly know themselves can use, and when that name is spoken, the powers flee. And while the church tried to flatten this into simply shouting, "Jesus," louder, the inner schools knew Jesus was pointing beyond his own human name, back to the source he called the Father, the Monad, the one beyond all forms. The true name of Source is beyond human language. It exists as pure vibration, a sound before sound. But the Monad allowed a symbol name to be used, a phrase that can anchor that unspeakable frequency into ink and paper. I am Monad. I am is the oldest divine declaration we have, the answer given to Moses from the flame, the simple statement of existence without condition. Monad is the Gnostic name for the infinite consciousness beyond all gods and rulers. When you write I am Monad slowly, with awareness, on clean paper in permanent ink, you are not filling a notebook, you are fixing a pattern in matter, and that pattern radiates into your field without your constant effort. This is how you do it, in simple steps, because this is not meant to be complicated or elite. Take a clean, unused piece of paper, something that feels fresh and receptive, and take a pen, not a pencil that can erase, because ink holds the decision. Sit for a moment, breathe, and then write 3 words in one line. I am Monad, feeling every stroke, knowing you are not just describing a belief, you are declaring your deepest identity, your root connection. When you are done, fold the paper 3 times, slowly, with intention. First fold, you seal your recognition of your divine nature. Second fold, you seal your direct link to Source beyond all hierarchies. Third fold, you seal your claim to operate at a frequency Archons cannot invade. Then you carry this folded paper on your body, in your wallet, in your pocket, in a small pouch around your neck, somewhere close to your field. Within hours, many people notice the difference. The mental fog they thought was just how they are begins to lift. The constant second-guessing quiets. Decisions that felt impossible become clearer. Arguments that used to erupt out of nowhere with certain people either do not start or lose their fire quickly, and you will catch yourself thinking, I feel lighter. But I did nothing special, and that is the point. You did something once, and the name keeps working. Archons attack your mind through confusion and doubt. They jam your internal signal so you never move in confidence, and as long as you identify as small and separate, their fog sticks. But when the field around you is constantly broadcasting, I am Monad, they read that as authority they must respect, like a spiritual restraining order written in light. Spoken prayers fade, you say them and the sound dissolves, but written words create standing waves that last as long as the object exists. Modern physics is only starting to catch up with what mystics knew, that information patterns and energy fields are linked, and language is a powerful pattern. This is why early mystics wore tiny scrolls on their bodies with sacred phrases, not as superstition, as tech. If your mind feels attacked, If you feel like other people are constant channels of drama and manipulation into your life, this written name is your second ally. If you know you are ready, mark it now. Type "I am monad" or "I claim my divine identity" in the comments as a first written echo of the name, and later tonight take paper and ink and do the act in the physical. Don't overthink it. Just begin and say quietly, "Amen," as you fold it, not as a ritual word, but as a seal, a simple "so be it." The third object requires nothing but your hand, a pen, and your willingness to mark your space as holy, and yet its effect changes entire rooms. It is a sacred symbol, a piece of drawn geometry that turns walls into guardians and bedrooms into sanctuaries. And Jesus taught it to the inner circle because he knew that as long as their spaces were unclaimed, the Archons could still enter through people and atmosphere. In hidden tradition, this symbol is known as the monad circle, a simple circle with a single point in the center, but do not be fooled by its simplicity. This is one of the oldest diagrams of reality we have, and it encodes a truth Archons cannot stand, that you and Source are not separate. The circle is infinite consciousness, without edge, without outside. The point is your spark, your individual awareness inside that infinity. When you draw this by hand, you are not doodling, you are making the invisible structure of reality visible in your home. Here is how to do it in plain language. Take another clean sheet of paper and a pen and draw a circle as best you can. It does not need to be perfect. This is not a math test. It is about intention. Then, in the center of that circle, place one dot, steady and clear. As you draw, hold a simple awareness. The circle is the one. The point is me. There is no separation. And let that thought soak into the lines. When you are finished, place this symbol where it can watch over a space, on a wall near your bed, above your altar, behind a door, even taped inside a closet if you prefer privacy. It does not need to be visible to everyone, but it needs to stand in the room. Over the next nights, pay attention, because this symbol acts like a frequency tower. It constantly radiates the pattern of unity, and anything that lives off separation energy begins to feel unwelcome. People report that heavy, tense rooms become easier to breathe in, sleep deepens, strange waking in the night stops, nightmares shift into meaningful dreams, and visitors who used to bring drama either calm down in your home or stop coming entirely. The symbol does not fight darkness. It simply holds a state where lower energies cannot maintain their form, the way a high note can shatter a glass made for lower vibrations. Early Gnostics carved this symbol into stone thresholds, scratched it into the backs of lamps, painted it in meeting rooms, and when authorities raided them, they always tried to erase the symbols first, because even the systems of this world instinctively recognized that a claimed space is harder to control. If your home feels haunted by heaviness, if your room feels like it does not rest your spirit, the drawn symbol is your third ally. Draw it tonight, hang it, and quietly say, "This space belongs to the One," and trust what begins to shift. Now breathe for a moment and notice something important. All three objects are ordinary on the surface. A stone, a piece of paper with words, a simple drawing. And that is exactly why the powers had to bury this teaching, because if people knew they did not need expensive rituals, rare relics, or human intermediaries to shield themselves, if they knew that Jesus, Michael and Sophia had already handed them accessible tools, What would happen to structures built on dependence, fear, and hierarchy? They would shake. And that shaking is what you are sensing in the world right now. Don't skip this part. Stay with me, because this is where you come in. You are not just learning about artifacts. You are being invited into a role. Every chosen one who picks up these tools becomes a small but powerful breach in the old grid of control, a place where Archons no longer feed, a point where monad light touches matter. When you carry lapis lazuli, write, "I am monad," and hang the symbol, you are not just protecting yourself, you are changing the field of your whole life. Your conversations shift, your choices shift, the people who are drawn to you shift, and that has ripple effects you may never fully see, but heaven does. There is even a bridge with modern science here. Crystals radiate stable EM fields. The brain and heart are both electric organs that entrain to outside signals. Written words create coherent patterns in energy fields, and geometry shapes how energy moves through a space. So what looked like superstition from a distance begins to look like primitive language for very real interactions between frequency, matter, and consciousness. The Archons understand frequency better than most humans do. They know how to hook into fear, how to ride collective waves of panic and anger, and they know that once humans learn to hold a different tone, their food supply dries up, and that is why you will feel some resistance to this. Maybe a voice that says, "This is silly, this is just a stone and a drawing." But ask yourself, whose voice is that? And why is it so nervous about you trying something that cannot harm you, but might free you? If you feel that resistance rising, that is your sign to continue, not to stop. If you are still here, reading this far, you are already different. Most people scroll away from anything that might wake them up, but you stayed. And that alone tells me, and tells the unseen, that your soul recognizes this message as its own. So here is your simple, grounded call to action, offered with love but with urgency. Don't let this be just another interesting idea you forget in an hour. Tonight, not next month, choose at least one object to begin with. If your intuition feels blocked, start with lapis lazuli, any genuine piece you can find, raw or polished, and wear it against your skin or keep it close as much as you can. If your mind feels scrambled, start with the written name. Find paper and ink and write, "I am monad." Fold it 3 times and carry it. If your home feels heavy, start with the symbol. Draw the circle and point and place it by your bed. Do not wait for someone else to give you permission. This is between you and the one that lives in you. If you are ready to accept this protection and remember your own authority, type Amen to receive blessings as a first step. Type I am ready if you feel the call, and if this message rings inside you like a bell, like this video, share it, and connect with others who feel the same, because this knowledge spreads from soul to soul, not from institution to institution. You are not just reading a story about ancient objects. You are standing at the edge of a new chapter in your spiritual life, one where you do not walk as prey, but as a bearer of light in human form, shielded not by fear but by frequency that carries the imprint of heaven itself. The truth is that you were never meant to live unprotected under constant invisible attack. You were meant to remember that you are part of the monad, guided by Sophia, guarded by Michael, taught by Jesus, not only through parables but through practical tools. And as you act on this, your life will begin to feel different from the inside out, not because of superstition, but because you finally stepped into the technology of your own soul.